Welcome to Employee Engagement using MYGROWTH Meetings. Hi, I'm Andy Dix, President and Senior Advisor of AD Growth Advisors. We help executives and entrepreneurs co-create an engaged workforce that's capable and willing of meeting and exceeding customer expectations and organizational goals. In this module, we're going to introduce you to a simple framework that executives have found to be highly effective in getting their employees to become more engaged in the organizational mission. We call it MYGROWTH Meetings. Engagement is a significant concern for a lot of organizations. In fact, depending on which study you look at, upwards of 68% of U.S. employees report being disengaged at work. There is a tremendous upside for increasing employee engagement financially. In fact, one organization who increased their employee engagement score 10% found a $2,400 net profit increase per employee per year. So what does employee engagement really mean? Well, it means creating a mutually beneficial alliance between the organization and each and every employee. And the organization is typically represented by the direct supervisor. In my opinion, the best way to ensure employees are engaged is for their direct supervisors or leaders to act in ways that demonstrate consistently the following saying: if it matters to you, it matters to me, because you matter to me. When employees believe that their organization, represented by their direct supervisor, truly believes in them and their capabilities and wants them to grow, it increases the likelihood that they're going to be motivated to be fully engaged in achieving the organizational mission. One way to do this is by having an ongoing dialogue that revolves around the person's individual aspirations and development goals. We call these MYGROWTH meetings, and it uses a simple framework that mainly is guided by the employee to help the leader understand what really matters to each employee that reports into them. MYGROWTH meetings simply use the following format. First of all, we talk about what matters most to the employee. We ask questions about what are their career aspirations, both in the short term and in the long term. We ask about goals for their professional growth. What relationships are important for them to develop inside of the organization to build their network? Which opportunities inside of the organization would be good fits to stretch this employee professionally? If the employee is going to take on additional responsibilities, we may need to look at the workload that they currently have. Is there something that can be reassigned or no longer is necessary that gives them the time and the resources to actually be able to take on these growth opportunities? What training needs might the employee have? And lastly, how are we going to measure the progress of the plan over the course of the year? The beauty of using MYGROWTH meetings are they're very simple to implement. They can be done at any level of the organization, and it's very low cost, but of course very high yield. So how does a MYGROWTH meeting work? Well, the first thing we recommend is that you provide your employee with a prep form for the meeting. The idea of the prep form is it allows the employee to think about each one of the topic areas covered in the MYGROWTH meeting in advance and to prepare what they really want to share with the supervisor. It also serves as a great agenda for the meeting, so there's no surprises there, and keeps the meeting positive and focused on the employee's growth. This isn't the time to be giving feedback. This is the time for the supervisor to be listening about what matters most to that employee. Now here's some tips on how to make your MYGROWTH meetings successful. First of all, choose a neutral location. We want these meetings to stand out in the employee's mind as something very different, something that's totally focused on them. It's best to be outside of the office or a conference room. Coffee shops, breakfasts, or lunches work well for this. We've even had executives who have virtual employees go to a coffee shop themselves and invite their employee to go to their favorite coffee shop, and they connect virtually on Skype. The whole idea here is to set the stage that this is a very different conversation than the typical business conversation you regularly have with your employees. The second tip is to limit the distractions for the conversation. We want to be 100% focused on the employee. Turning off cell phones, turning off computers, and other distractions can help us do that. And it sends an important message to our employee that this really is important to us and that they are getting 100% of our total attention. The overall goal of the MyGrowth meeting is to simply figure out what matters most to the employee, and that way we can better link their needs with the organizational mission and need. The more they're linked together, the more the employee will see a need to actually commit and to support the organization's mission. They'll be fully engaged. So when we're listening, we want to be listening for not just what the employee is saying, but what they mean and what they're not saying for that matter. And also, we want to be sensitive to their body language. We want this to be an open and candid conversation. And if we sense that this isn't working well, maybe we schedule a second meeting. We want to confirm understanding of the employee. We want them to know that we really listened and that we comprehend and support their professional development needs. Lastly, we want to agree on action steps. What are we as an organization going to do to support their individual professional development? And what is the employee willing to commit to in order to develop professionally? You may not be able to achieve everything that you want to in one meeting. Having multiple meetings is certainly a viable option. And you want to schedule follow-up meetings periodically throughout the year so the employee knows it's already on the calendar and that they'll be held accountable for their action steps. In just a moment, I'm going to share with you a link that'll allow you to download our sample MyGrowth meeting prep form that you can use for your organization, or feel free to change it to fit your culture. If you'd like to find out more about engaging your employees, feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you about some low-cost strategies that can be highly effective for you and your organization. As promised, here's the link to download the MyGrowth meeting prep form sample template. Feel free to use it as is or customize it to fit your culture and your needs. Employee engagement begins by fostering that one-on-one mutually beneficial alliance between you as the leader and the employee. And I firmly believe that it becomes real when you act in ways that demonstrate time and time again to the employee that if it matters to you, it matters to me because you matter to me. When people know that they are valued for not just what they do, but for who they are and what they hope to become, then they fully engage, and you and your customers will receive their best work day in and day out. Hopefully you found this module to be worth the investment of your time. And if you have any other questions, or if I can be of any assistance, please contact me. Thanks for your interest in a more engaged workforce.